Okay, now we're going to look at problems 13, 14, 15, and 16 in our review sheet. And so problem 13, we've got 11 plus 6 squared minus a negative 3 times 7. Okay, so let's go to our sheet. And the first thing we want to look at is the order of operations. Order of operations. And in the order of operations, a lot of people like to use the memory device or the mnemonic device. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, where P is not just parentheses, but simplify inside the parentheses. Exponents, multiplication, and division, but these are considered equal. Multiplication is not necessarily higher in the order than division. You have to look at them from left to right in the terms. And then addition and subtraction, again, we look at the addition and subtraction from left to right. We don't see addition as higher than subtraction either. Okay, so every time when we're evaluating, we're not solving, we're just simplifying. So each time we want to do one step, carry everything else down. Do one step, carry everything else down. One problem that algebra students have with the order of operations is they want to do too much, at least 2 or 3 things in their head, and they mess it up. So first thing we're going to look at, we have addition, we've got exponents, we've got subtraction, we've got multiplying negatives, and we got multiplying on the end. Well, since there's nothing to simplify in this parentheses, it's just a single term, we really don't consider parentheses because it's already simplified as a single term. So now we go to exponents. Well, here we have, so 6 squared would be the first thing we would do in our order of operations. So 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 6 is 36. So this, we bring everything else down and then change the 6 squared to 36 minus a negative 3 times 7. Well, now we've got addition, and we can look at this subtraction between 36 and negative 3, and we got multiplication. Well, multiplication is higher in the order of operations than subtraction. And here we have minus a negative 3. So that would be considered like multiplying negatives. Negative times negative is a positive. So we can also look at this as the opposite of a negative 3 is a positive 3. So minus a negative is a positive, so that becomes a plus 3. Well, we don't add 36 and 3, but we can multiply 3 times 7, and that's 21. 3 times 7 is 21. So we can multiply those two and bring everything else down. 11 plus 36. Since this is plus 3 times positive 7, that'll be a plus 21. And now from left to right, we add 11 and 36. That's going to give us 6 and 1 is 7, 3 and 1 is 4. So these two together is going to give us 47 plus 21 So 47 plus 21, since they're both positive, we're still adding. 7 and 1 is 8. 4 and 2 is 6. So 68 is our answer. Okay, so it's really important that you are careful, do one thing, and then refer back to the order of operations for the next step. Do that one thing, refer back to the order of operations for the next step, and then another, and then just keep going one thing at a time. And if, as long as you're meticulous and you consider the order of operations every time, you'll get it right. Okay, let's take a look at the next problem. That was 13. So let's look at 14. -2 parentheses cubed minus 2 -2 parentheses squared. And let's go to our sheet. Okay, so this is -2 cubed. That's the same thing as if we said -2. Since the negative and the 2 are in parentheses, we're multiplying the negative and the 2 3 times. So -2 times -2 times -2. Well, again, exponents before subtraction in this case, right? And so since -3 is furthest to the left, we'll do that first. Well, negative times negative, right, is a positive. So 2 times -2, 2 times 2 is 4. And then 4 times a -2 is a -8. So you've got an odd number of negatives. So your answer, what you're going to end up with, is always negative. So we're going to bring everything else down. Okay, so now this is where you've got to be careful, because you've got subtraction and you've got exponents. So you don't want, so you've got a negative here and a negative here. You don't want to change the sign, because then you're multiplying negatives, and that gives you, that would be putting multiplication before exponents, and exponents is higher in the order of operations. Why? Because if you expanded this -2 squared out, this would be 8 minus -2 times -2. Well, negative times negative is a positive, and 2 times 2 is 4. So that would be -8 minus 4. So you're going to, this would be -8 minus, so -2 times -2 is a positive 4. So we end up with -8 minus 4, just like we would have -8 minus 4 here. So -8, since they're both the same signs, it's like we're adding negatives, right? If you dig 8 inches down, then take a break, and then dig 4 more inches down, well, how far in the hole are you? Well, you've gone down -12, right? So -12, again, because the signs are the same, you're adding negatives. So you're going more negative. And so our answer is -12. Okay, let's look at the next problem on our sheet. Now we're going to look at go over absolute value, number 15, minus, and then absolute value of -8/3. Okay, so on our sheet, we look at that. Now let's review what absolute value is. Here's the number line. Here's 0. Here's 8/3. And here's a -8/3. Absolute value means the number of units from 0. Well, we are 8/3 units from 0, and we're 8/3 units from 0, from positive 8/3 to 0, as we are from negative 8/3 to 0. So we look at the inside, we ask ourselves, okay, anything that's inside the absolute value becomes a positive. So that's going to be a positive 8/3. But because there's a negative, we're saying the opposite of that, so it's a negative. This negative does not get factored into what's inside. Okay, another thing is you cannot change negative times negative as a positive because it's absolute value. If we had -8, negative, and then parentheses 8/3, yeah, now we can change the signs, and that becomes a positive 8/3, because this is saying the opposite of a negative 8/3, right? The opposite of a negative 8/3 is a positive 8/3. So it's different with parentheses as it is with absolute value. So again, you look at inside the absolute value, make that a positive, right? And then you have that outside sign, so you got to change it to the opposite of that, which would be a negative 8/3. Okay, so your answer is a negative 8/3. This is parentheses, so we don't even need to mess with that. I just wanted to show you the difference between absolute value and parentheses. Okay, so let's look at the next problem. And so number 16 is let x equal 2 and y equal 5. We want to evaluate. So basically, we're going to substitute 2 in for x and 5 in for y. So let's look at our sheet again. All right, and so now this 2 is going to go in here where the x is. And so it's like we're cutting that x out, and this will be 6 and then parentheses, and we're going to put that 2 in there. Minus 7. And so it's like we cut that y out, right? And now we're going to substitute in the 5. And then close the absolute value. So this is 6 times x. And so this would be 6 times 2 is 12. And then this is 7 times y. So this would be negative 7 times y. So this would be negative 7 times 5 is a negative 35. So we've got a positive 12 and a negative 35. We're subtracting, right? And I like to work vertically. Negative 35, positive 12. Okay, so we subtract, right? 5 minus 2 is 3. 3 minus 1 is 2. We have more negative than positive, so our answer is a negative. So another way to look at this is, let's say we dig a hole 35 inches down. And then let's say we cover up, we put in dirt back in. We put 12 inches of dirt back in. Well, what's left? That's 23. So we're still negative 23 in the hole. So that's why the answer is negative. But we're still in the absolute value. So we put negative 23 inside the absolute value sign. So you don't want to skip this part, because this is going to change our 23 to a positive 23. So again, we substitute in the values, multiply, multiplication comes before subtraction in the order of operations. 6 times 2 is 12, 7 minus 5, 7 times 5 is 35. So 12 minus 35 is a negative 23. And then once we get to a single term, then we can apply the absolute value, which is a positive 23. And that's our answer. Okay. So that's this part of the video.